Q broadcast, it's taking the world by storm. People are cutting the cord to their high cable bills and moving away from streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, and others for something better. Q broadcast. For just $60 a month, you'll get access to every channel you could ever want, including HBO, Cinemax, and Stars. And the best part? There are no contracts, no hidden fees, and you're free to cancel anytime. With Q Broadcast, you can enjoy streaming live TV, movies, and top series on up to 5 devices at once. Whether you're at home or on the go, Q Broadcast makes sure your entertainment is always at your fingertips. Imagine being able to watch all your favorite channels from anywhere, anytime, without any restrictions. We're talking about thousands of movies, hundreds of TV series, and a huge library of live channels, all in one place. And don't forget video on demand and pay-per-view events. Those are included at no extra cost, so you'll never miss a big event again. Now, take a second and think about your current cable bill. You're probably paying anywhere between $100 and $300 every month, locked into long-term contracts and hit with surprise rate increases. With Q Broadcast, that's a thing of the past. It's just $60 a month. No contracts, no extra fees, no hidden costs, and no price hikes. Why juggle multiple subscriptions like Netflix, Hulu, and cable when Q Broadcast gives you everything you need in one convenient package? People everywhere are switching to Q Broadcast, saving money and getting more content than ever before. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description and sign up for Q Broadcast today. Just $60 a month, no contracts, no hidden fees. It's time to take control of your entertainment and start streaming smarter.
We live in a world where men are told it's harmless. It's just entertainment. Well, let's stop lying to ourselves. Pornography destroys. It weakens your spirit. It dulls your drive. And it robs you of what real intimacy is supposed to be. Every click is a step away from the man you're supposed to be. We can't call ourselves leaders if we are slaves to a screen.
As someone that is prior service, I know all about discipline. And discipline isn't out there, it's within your mind. Porn rewires your brain, weakens your will, wrecks all of your relationships. It doesn't just stay on a screen, it invades your marriage, your confidence, and your actual purpose. As men, if we don't learn to discipline ourselves, we'll be ruled by our impulses. Now, it is time to stand up and take control before this silent war takes more than you're willing to lose.
Real men don't hide in the shadows of shame. We step up and we protect what's ours. We fight for our wives and kids, our own hearts. Twitter isn't just an app, it's a weapon. It's a tool used to break free and start living like the man that you're meant to be. The battle's here and it starts with you. You can stop living in shame and you can break free today.
Of Q Broadcast, it's taking the world by storm. People are cutting the cord to their high cable bills and moving away from streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, and others for something better. Q Broadcast. For just $60 a month, you'll get access to every channel you could ever want, including HBO, Cinemax, and Stars. And the best part? There are no contracts, no hidden fees, and you're free to cancel anytime. With Q Broadcast, you can enjoy streaming live TV, movies, and top series on up to 5 devices at once. Whether you're at home or on the go, Q Broadcast makes sure your entertainment is always at your fingertips. Imagine being able to watch all your favorite channels from anywhere, anytime, without any restrictions. We're talking about thousands of movies, hundreds of TV series, and a huge library of live channels, all in one place. And don't forget video on demand and pay-per-view events. Those are included at no extra cost, so you'll never miss a big event again. Now, take a second and think about your current cable bill. You're probably paying anywhere between $100 and $300 every month, locked into long-term contracts, and hit with surprise rate increases. With Q Broadcast, that's a thing of the past. It's just $60 a month. No contracts, no extra fees, no hidden costs, and no price hikes. Why juggle multiple subscriptions like Netflix, Hulu, and cable when Q Broadcast gives you everything you need in one convenient package? People everywhere are switching to Q Broadcast, saving money and getting more content than ever before. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description and sign up for Q Broadcast today. Just $60 a month, no contracts, no hidden fees. It's time to take control of your entertainment and start streaming smarter.
We live in a world where men are told it's harmless. It's just entertainment. Let's stop lying to ourselves. Pornography destroys. It weakens your spirit. It dulls your drive. And it robs you of what real intimacy is supposed to be. Every click is a step away from the man you're supposed to be. We can't call ourselves leaders if we are slaves to a screen.
As someone that is prior service, I know all about discipline. And discipline isn't out there, it's within your mind. Porn rewires your brain, weakens your will, wrecks all of your relationships. It doesn't just stay on a screen, it invades your marriage, your confidence, and your actual purpose. As men, if we don't learn to discipline ourselves, we'll be ruled by our impulses. Now, it is time to stand up and take control before this silent war.
Here at the Anomic Age, we know that these times of uncertainty are stressful. It is incumbent upon all of us to put our fears first and bow down to government tyranny. Gone are the days of freely leaving your home, working, and social interactions. In exchange for safety, we will trade liberty. At the Anomic Age, we understand. However, just in case you want to get off your knees and stop being a sniveling coward, check out the John Age Project at anomicage.com.
Meet Ann Morrissey, who is here with her daughter, Dareth. Dareth is 17 years old. Mrs. Morrissey, I don't have to tell you that most parents would be extremely depressed if their daughter came home one day looking like this. I assume that was your response. Shock, anger, depression? What was it?
I was extremely angry. I really went bananas.
Yeah, how old was she when this happened?
Possibly 13, 14 years old.
We're talking like it's a disease, isn't it?
Well,
yeah. How did she explain it to you, Mrs. Morrissey?
there was very poor communication until we went into counseling. And it almost broke up our family. But through counseling and Serena, I can understand it better.
What do you understand?
That she feels like she doesn't want to be like everyone else, and she wants to be her own person. And through the dress code and her lifestyle, she's expressing this. It doesn't conform with our rules, but we're learning to cope, and it's a very, very difficult thing. Extremely difficult.
Dareth, let's let you talk for yourself. You're from Long Beach, California.
I just can't handle being like everybody else because that's what everybody else wants, you know. Just because somebody else does something does not mean that I have to do it. You know, I have my own morals and ideals, and I go by them.
Are you drug-free, Dareth?
Yes, I am.
Is this a political statement then? Do you have some misgiving about the society that you see?
Yeah, there's a lot of problems, you know. A lot of the people are really aware of what's going on, you know, and I don't like it, you know. There's a lot of problems.
What?
I don't like the way society is based.
What bothers you? Give us some of the misgivings you have.
The rich, the poor, the people starving, the wars, you know. Why can't, you know, everybody just get along and just live their life?
Here at the Anomic Age, we know that these times
Talon Rio and Chevy.
Propagating truth in a world of lies. You are listening to the John Age Project.
Trust no one. Trust no one. Trust no one.
You found it. You're here. You're headlong down the runaway train that is the Anomic Age. I'm your host, John Age. Happy to be back with you once again. Hailing proudly from the coastal plains of the Old North State, I'll be your tour guide this evening as we take a somewhat satirical journey down the path of murder, destruction, mayhem, and the extermination of human life on this planet, a forced march into obsolescence thrust upon us by a global Luciferian death cult of pedophiles. Check out anomicage.com if you've not already done so. Please like all the likes, subscribe to all the subscriptions, paypal.me/anomicage, patreon.com/anomicage as well. That's the best place you can go to find me and all things Anomic Age. You can get into the guests, free iPhone app, free Android app, subscribe by email link, and so much more right there at anomicage.com. I won't waste any more time with the preface for you today. We got a great guest for us. Again, Jaye Weidner. He's been on the show 2 other times. So if you've missed any of those episodes, please go forth and check those out. Jaye Weidner, called by Wired magazine an authority on the hermeneutic and alchemical traditions. He is renowned as a filmmaker, author, and scholar, considered to be a modern-day Indiana Jones for his ongoing worldwide quests to find clues to mankind's spiritual destiny via ancient societies and artifacts. His body of work offers great insight into the circumstances that have led to the current global crisis. He's a writer, director of the feature film The Last Avatar, director of the critically acclaimed documentary Infinity, The Ultimate Trip, Journey Beyond Death, and writer-director of the documentary series on the work of Stanley Kubrick, Kubrick's Odyssey, and Beyond the Infinite. Thank you so much, Jay, for your time today. I know you're a busy man, so thank you so much, man.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
It's definitely a pleasure to see you again and speak to you as always. I kind of gave you a little bit of this before we got into it today, but you know, for whatever reason, I think we all we think we know the story of everything. And then even if you get into the quote unquote conspiracies, you feel like you know it for a couple years. And then sometimes you take a look at something like, holy cow, how did I miss this? How did I miss this blind spot? And I'm a sucker for kind of going back into history and looking at people who have often gotten like a footnote. And that's kind of where I sort of started pulling this James Forrestal thread. And I know he connects to JFK, which connects to the moon landings at MJ-12. And I thought we just kind of started there because, you know, for better or worse, I think everybody knows JFK, Allen Dulles, and so forth. But Forrestal, you know, for my money, he just kind of got swept under the rug. And I think he's a very integral part, maybe not the beginning, but he's one of those transitional from World War II into Vietnam and into that technology that we got to take a look at. And then we'll get into Stanley Kubrick, JFK, and kind of how it all connects, or at least as much as we can unpack here in this short time.
James Forrestal is just a footnote in history, but it's actually an incredibly important guy. He took JFK and him were friends, and he took JFK to Germany in 1945, where they definitely went in and looked at the secret weapon systems being developed by the Germans at the end of World War II, including most likely the place where they were producing the Bell and all of the anti-gravity stuff. Forrestal then became the first Secretary of Defense. It was the Secretary of War, and they changed it. And he was the Secretary of Navy, which is a super high position, by the way. And then he became the Secretary of Defense. This all at the same time period that the CIA is being created, shadowing the Office of Naval Intelligence, which used to be the primary intelligence gathering agency in the United States. So there's lots of tension. And I think that's why he got put in to be the first Secretary of Defense, because the Navy was really, really not very happy about all of this. And Kennedy was also in naval intelligence. PT boats were naval intelligence, and he ran one. And anyway, they were both Irish Catholics, and they just liked each other. They're from New England, and so Forrestal became a mentor for JFK. And then I believe that Forrestal was giving JFK MJ-12 secrets, because he was in MJ-12 also. And I believe that Kennedy began realizing that we had anti-gravity and free energy, because that's what was going on by the end of the 50s. And I believe that they killed Forrestal because he was giving these secrets away. He wanted this stuff liberated. He realized that this could probably, save humanity. And I believe Kennedy did too. Kennedy was being given seriously big doses of LSD in the White House by the wife of the former head of the CIA, whose name's going to escape me now. I can't believe I can't remember her name. Beautiful woman. And she was dedicated to bombarding all the politicians in D.C., because that's where she lived, with LSD, believing it was a peace drug. All right. So she was bombarding JFK with LSD, and JFK was beginning to have change of mind about things. And he was starting to think that, Vietnam was not a good idea, and these guys that are keeping all these secrets and everything have got to be outed. And he's having a lot of misgivings about everything because of this drug. And so then he decided to pull a fast one. This is my opinion.
Yeah.
He decided to pull a fast one, and knowing fully, because Wernher von Braun told him that we could not get to the moon without a rocket the size of the Empire State Building. And we know that Wernher von Braun and Kennedy got in a huge argument at Houston, NASA, when Kennedy visited. We don't know what that argument was about, but it was a rather heated argument. Then Kennedy tried to hijack the whole thing by saying that we want to get to the moon by the end of the decade, knowing fully well that NASA did not have the capability of doing it. And by the way, also we now know that Kennedy and Stanley Kubrick were actually having conversations with each other at this time. And a lot of Kubrick's friends worked in the Kennedy administration. So there were connections there. So anyway, NASA completely flipped out when Kennedy did this and didn't know what to do. They started on their moon Apollo program, but it just met with one disaster after another. Neil Armstrong almost broke his neck trying to land the lunar lander in Arizona. And Gus Grissom hung a lemon on top of the capsule, saying that this whole program was a lemon. And then he died in Apollo 1 in the fire, of which was a very suspicious fire. And we began to see this kind of NASA connection to both Kennedy and the Stanley Kubrick. And so I personally believe that Kennedy faked his death. It's in my film JFK X, came out a couple of years ago, because of the incredible stress he found himself under. The mob had put out a hit on him in late September of 1963. They had the telephone recording of them saying, yes, we're going to hit him from a high building. And so Kennedy knew about that because the FBI had to tell him. So he knew that they were coming after him, and for a number of reasons. Vietnam, the mob, a lot of reasons. And besides, he had Addison's disease, which was a horrible disease he got when he was serving in the military in World War II. And Addison's, you don't live very long. So Kennedy did not have long to live anyway. He was destined for the wheelchair and then death. So there's no way around it. Anyway, so NASA realized that Kennedy had trapped them. And then Kennedy died or went away, whatever you want to believe. And then they approached Stanley Kubrick, right after Dr. Strangelove came out. So it'd be late 1963, right after Kennedy got killed, early 1964. They approached him. We have the the Department of Information documents saying that they were looking at 5 movie directors. They wanted to interview 5 movie directors for unknown purposes. They were all like, all the biggest guys, Billy Wilder and all the biggest. And then at the very end, they mentioned the 4, which were the 4 biggest directors at the time. And then they said that we've been told that this young man named Stanley Kubrick is someone that we need to pay attention to. So they named him by name. So somebody in the government in 64 was looking for a movie director. Why?
And who was trying to interview these directors? Was it CIA or was
the
it just
Department
kind
of
of
Information, which is probably the CIA, just a front for the CIA. So, so Kubrick had done Dr. Strangelove, and he had requested from the Air Force to photograph the inside of a B-52 so he could do it right. And they said no. When they read the script, and they were completely freaked out by the script because it was a satire of the military, right? Mm-hmm. So Kubrick pieced together the inside of B-52 from photographs from aviation magazines, he and his production designer. And when the film came out, they couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe how well he had done, caught what a B-52 looked like from the inside, which was all top secret, right? But what really blew their minds was the jet flying over Siberia in Dr. Strangelove. It totally blew their minds. And when they found out that that was not a real jet, because they knew it wasn't, because they had all their own B-52s and nobody landed one, when they found out that that was a model and that was flying over Siberia using front screen projection of new technology just emerging at the time, then they contacted Kubrick. They'd already contacted him, the Air Force had, because they were worried that he was stealing secrets. But when they saw the movie, they completely flipped out. I believe they asked him to do it. Pretty much he had to do it. He agreed to a contract, a lifetime contract, where he would be taken care of for the rest of his life as far as filmmaking, and he'd be able to make whatever he wanted to make without any interference. And that was true for every film until Eyes Wide Shut, and then that happened after he died. So he really wasn't being interfered with because he was dead. So the whole entire point was that the NASA and the clandestine agencies are hiding free energy from us and anti-gravity technology. That's what Kennedy wanted out, because he knew that all the nuclear power plants would go away, the hydroelectric dams would disappear, highways and roads would disappear because everybody would be flying like the Jetsons. And we're still in the war. It's happening right now with these missing scientists. We're still in the war to try to liberate humanity from the constrictions that Kennedy, fought against and tried to open up. And the whole thing is actually one of the most amazing stories of all. And then if you think about it, the Jupiter mission in 2001: Space Odyssey, that's a secret mission. That's a secret mission. They don't know what they're doing. Only Hal knows what the mission is. They don't know until after Hal dies, when the movie comes on the screen and tell them that they found this thing on the moon that shot a signal to Jupiter, which is Saturn in the book, and which is important. And so the movie 2001: Space Odyssey is Stanley Kubrick's R&D to get the Apollo missions right. And they shot the Apollo missions in a blimp hangar 40 miles north of London. Several witnesses saw the set, the entire blimp. It's now a movie studio, by the way. They shot all the Batman movies, Christopher Nolan's movies, were all shot in this hangar, this huge blimp hangar. And I believe that Kubrick, Kubrick wanted to sleep in his own bed. He shot Barry Lyndon in Ireland, and he hated it, and because he wasn't sleeping in his own bed. And so I believe, and for all the movies he made after Barry Lyndon, they were shot right around London, right? So I believe that the blimp hangar, witnesses that have actually saw Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin in full getup at this blimp hangar in like late 1968. So right after he finished 2001, he went right to work on all of this. And he left clues. He left clues in The Shining. The boy has the sweater with the Apollo 11 taking off. Room 237 is 237,000 miles. It's the distance between the Earth and the Moon, until we invented better ways to measure things. And it's really one of the most incredible stories of all time, actually. We have, James Forrestal, high up in the intelligence agencies, head of the Secretary of the Navy, becomes the first head of the Defense Department, telling secrets to young John Kennedy, who's super charismatic. And he's actually, I believe he's in The Shining. He's the hotel manager that Jack Nicholson interviews with at the beginning. He's got the coiffure, looks like Kennedy. The actor looks like Kennedy, and I think Kennedy might have had some discussions with Stanley Kubrick. To be honest with you, I think Kubrick was kind of telling us this in the movie The Shining. And
I want to touch on the Forrestal thing for a second before we totally leave him, because I found this really interesting. And when you mentioned the LSD with JFK, I thought that was kind of thought provoking, because you also have Frank Olson is the guy that supposedly jumped out of the window to commit his suicide, which came after the Forrestal, a few years after that. And I'm like, what in the world? Because we know the Frank Olson thing was LSD connected. And they always like to sort of do a dry run before they do the real thing. And I'm like, well, that's kind of like the exact same murder or quote unquote suicide for both of these guys. I don't find that very coincidental, or it might be, but I don't know.
No, they both threw themselves out of the window, both Olson and Forrestal. Interestingly enough, the last person to visit Forrestal was Lyndon Johnson. It's like that morning he came to visit him. The person who saw Jack Ruby right before the mind control guy came to visit Jack Ruby in jail. What's his name? The really evil MK Ultra dude.
Oh man, yeah, I know who you're talking about. The doctor, the psychologist.
Yeah, psychologist. He came to visit Jack Ruby, and Jack Ruby went crazy after he came to visit him. Jack Ruby was completely lost his mind. I mean, we don't know what the guy did to him, but he completely lost his mind. And then he died of cancer like 4 months later. And so I personally, I believe that LSD has a much larger effect on the world than we're giving it credit for. I believe that it's part of the MK Ultra programming, and they're using it on politicians as part of the MK Ultra programming. Charles Manson, we now know, was a CIA, and what did he do? He gave everybody that around him LSD, and then they became murderers. computers at his command. So it was a small MK Ultra experiment. The Manson family was that I guess was successful since he actually got people to kill, you know, and this whole thing is all interrelated with the creation of the CIA. Honestly, that's when this all started. They started playing with fire, and then they realized that if they let out the anti-gravity and the free energy thing, that they would lose power. And so it became important to suppress it, and it's suppressed to this day. Eric Dollar, a famous physicist, he invented free energy about 14, 15 years ago, announced it, that he was going to release it. And I think he's still living in his car in a park in California because they just completely busted him completely. And they do that. They bust you down if ever you get close to anything. And if they can't bust you, then they kill you. And so the Kennedy assassination is the beginning of a long, dark history. But I'm told by my friends that are physicists and know this stuff that the Asians don't give a crap about what the elite think. They want their free energy and they want their anti-gravity, and they're going to do it, and they're right on the edge of doing it. So all this suppression in the West is not going to pay off in the end because the Asians don't give a crap about what the Rockefellers and all those people think, and and they're very innovative, so they're going to do it. It's not just a matter of time, and when that happens, then we'll see what kind of world we have. I think it'll be a better world. We won't be fighting over oil anymore, and Iran war will seem like a stupid thing, and the Straits of Hormuz will appear to be stupid to us, and the whole thing. And that's what they're suppressing. And that's what they've always been suppressing since when did he die? 1956? Since 1956. If you look at the literature, it's really interesting. If you go back and you look at popular mechanics and all the literature that was going on in the 50s, all the way up from 1946 to 1956, it was just one article after another, how we're going to have this future with anti-gravity machines and free energy. And every month, these magazines have another article about what's coming. It's all coming here soon. Then in 1956, right when Forrestal dies, it all stops. There's no more mention of it ever again in any of these trade magazines, any of these science magazines. I knew Eugene Marloff. He died. He was the editor of a free energy magazine, and he died. A burglar came into his house and killed him. Didn't steal anything. Eugene Marloff. He didn't steal anything, and he's never been caught. And over and over and over and over, we see the same thing happening, and it's part of the giant suppression that Forrestal and Kennedy wanted to stop. And then we follow up with Kubrick, and we begin to see that the last three films, he's really trying to tell us something. In The Shining, it's about MK Ultra programming and about the moon landing. Full Metal Jacket is again about MK Ultra, getting people to kill for you by training them and mind controlling them. And then we have Eyes Wide Shut, which, he might as well just let everything out at once, right? And
yeah,
he died before Eyes Wide Shut was released. And strangely enough, exactly 666 days before January 1st, 2001, his most famous movie. And believe it or not, exactly 666 days after that computer beat the Russian chess champion. Well, why do I think that's important? Because Kubrick was a chess champion. And so it's just strange, and it makes me think that maybe he faked his death and picked this date to do it. Not sure why he would fake his death, but maybe he got threatened for Eyes Wide Shut. Because I know he showed it to these studio executives in London about 5 days before he died, and they hated it. And I heard the guy that told me was one of his assistants, and he said he was in the lobby. He wasn't allowed to be in the theater. It was just the executives and Stanley and me, I think Stanley's wife. And so I had to hear it through the door. So I couldn't hear it very clear. So it was all muffled, but definitely he heard Stanley say, "You're not touching my GD picture," right? Right. He heard Stanley say that. And then Stanley stormed out of this meeting, just furious, right? And that's all we know, right? Except that he died 6 days later, and his chauffeur, who wrote a book about his time with Stanley, says that when he came back from the funeral, Stanley's funeral, there were like 5 or 6 dark limousines and vans in Stanley's driveway, and the door to Stanley's office, which was only opened by him and the chauffeur, was open, and there were like 7 or 8 people rifling through everything that Stanley had, packing it up in boxes and taking it. That's from his book. So I didn't make that up. That's what he says. So, I don't know what they were looking for or what they found, but probably has something to do with the moon landing. But who knows what Stanley was involved in? I mean,
that sounds like the Tesla stuff where you hear those same stories about Tesla's death and everything was taken immediately after he deceased,
Yeah, by Donald Trump's uncle.
Yeah, exactly right.
Don Trump. Yeah. How weird is that?
It's so weird. And this is the only guy that has ever made me feel this way about movies. And you might think the same thing, but every Stanley Kubrick movie, and I don't pretend to have seen every single one, but most of them, they always leave me feeling unsettled. Like there's something unsettling about them that makes you go like, what the flip did I just watch? And even if it's a couple years, you watch it again, and it's kind of like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, you put a little bit, another piece of the puzzle in. Okay, well, heck, I didn't see that the first time I saw The Shining when I was, 5 or what. Sadly, I watched The Shining. It was one of those ABC movies of the week or something where they'd show when I was really young, and I was just like, what in the world did I just watch? And I say that like 30 some years removed from that.
Nothing to do with the book. Not really. And that was all done on purpose. One thing that people don't realize is that what I did was I kind of back engineered Eyes Wide Shut about 2 years ago. And so what I do when I back engineer a film is I watch it, and then what I do is I watch each scene from the end to the beginning. Right? So I pick out the scene, I watch it, then I watch the next scene backwards, I work it all the way backwards to the beginning.
Yeah.
And when I did that with Eyes Wide Shut, I realized such I couldn't hardly believe. And that was that when Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise go to the party at the beginning of the movie, they're kind of flirting, everybody's flirting with each other and all this. And then a guy comes up to Tom Cruise and says, "You're needed upstairs," right? And so Tom's a doctor. It's important to know that. So Tom follows this guy, and they go up these winding stairs. And as they're going up the winding stairs, there's 2 guys, I think with 2 girls, right next to where the stairs are. This very elaborate staircase, right? One guy is tall and bald with glasses. The other guy is short and bald with glasses, right? Very distinctive looking. Okay, he walks past them up the stairs, and then he meets this girl, and he saves her life and all this, right? So then Tom finds out about the party, the orgy, right, from the piano player, Nick Nightingale. And so he gets a costume and goes through all this stuff and has his little cab pull up to where the party is. And as he's walking up the stairs going into the party, the orgy, there's those 2 guys again. And they're checking everybody out that's walking through there, right? That's coming by. Just like they were watching the stairwell, because the upstairs were forbidden to go up to at the party at the beginning of the movie. Okay, so where is all this leading? All right. So finally, and when Tom goes back to the house later that day to check out the house again, he's given a note through the fence by the short guy, the short round guy. I call him O and I, that tells him to not get involved, right? Stay away, right? And so then Tom now is walking down the streets of supposedly New York, and somebody's following him, right? And it's the tall guy with the bald head that's following him, right? So these guys are all through the movie, have no lines. All right. Now here's the kicker where I'm going with this. So it's the end of the movie now, and Nicole and Tom and their daughter, Alice, are walking through Macy's in New York, Christmas time. Okay, the first thing that happens is the little girl walks right past the black baby carriage from Rosemary's Baby. That's the first thing that she walks past. Then she walks through these menacing teddy bears that are leaning like this around this little girl, right? Nicole is very concerned about her. Hey, don't go over there. Be careful, Alice. Right? She's talking to her and very concerned about her whereabouts and her welfare. And then Tom and Nicole are having this weird conversation, and Tom goes, "Well, what are we going to do next?" And she says, "Well, I don't want to think about the future. It's too painful." And he says, "Well, I just don't know anymore." And then, I kid you not, nobody sees this. They both walk up to the little girl. She's standing in the aisle, and they both gently nudge her forward. She starts walking down the aisle. She looks back with fear in her eyes at Tom, right? And then she walks forward, and there's those two guys at the end of the aisle waiting for her. Mm-hmm. Then Tom and Nicole have an 8-minute conversation about the nature of reality, never mentioning their daughter again, never mentioning, no concern about her whereabouts anymore, right? And at the very end of this weird conversation about the nature of reality, Tom says, "Well, what are we going to do now?" And Nicole says, "Well, there's only one thing left to do." And Tom says, "Well, what's that?" And she says, "The F-bomb. The only movie that ends with the F-bomb," right? Well, why do they have the F-bomb? Because they don't want to have a kid anymore. In order to appease the cult, they had to give the cult their daughter. And that's what the whole scene is about. And it becomes obvious once you see it. It's obvious. They're abandoning their little daughter to these two creepazoids that have been chasing after Tom and doing all sorts of things. And they don't even have one line in the whole movie, these two guys. It is the creepiest thing I've ever seen, maybe in any movie ever. And I never saw it. I saw Eyes Wide Shut at least 10 times. I never saw any of this. It was only when I decided to deconstruct it by taking it backwards that I saw it, right? And I remember when I first watched the last scene first, right? So you watch the last scene first, and I saw those two guys, and I went, wait a minute, what are they doing here? They're nudging their daughters towards these two guys who are waiting for her. Right? And then I started realizing what was going on. And they're clearly the two thugs that work for the cult. And the other thing about Eyes Wide Shut, which is really kind of amazing, is it looks like everybody in the movie is in the cult except for Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Including Nicole Kidman. Everybody is in the cult. Everybody. The prostitutes they meet, the people at the parties, everybody's in the cult except for Tom. And he doesn't know it. He's just wandering around like a blind person.
And it's so wild because I was thinking about this and pulled it up. Nicole Kidman's father, Dr. Anthony Kidman, again, psychologist, biochemist, author, and some pretty dark connections to bad things with kids. I'll say it like that.
Yeah. Kubrick is not alone in this either. His co-producer, oh great, I'm going to forget his name. His co-producer on Paths of Glory and Lolita and one other film, he had an affair with Susan Lyons.
I think it's James Harris. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
And James Harris had an affair with her when she was 14 years old, and he was 30. And she was associated with the Laurel Canyon crowd, who were all, what's her name? The lead singer of the Mamas and Papas. not the lead singer, the second woman. They were friends, right? And she came out when James Harris, I think she came out when Kubrick died, and said that James Harris had an affair with Sue Lines when she was 14 years old. All right. So this whole thing it's all around us and we don't even know it or see it. And it used to just be forgiven. Now it isn't. But in the old days, it was like, what did Whoopi Goldberg say about Roman Polanski? He was just having fun, right? It was like, yeah, okay. And by the way, Roman Polanski and Stanley Kubrick were really tight. So, yeah, really tight. And Roman would always fly to London with his new film and show it to Stanley at Stanley's movie theater at his mansion. And they really liked each other a lot. I think Roman Polanski is a really, really great filmmaker. I'm sorry about his own personal life, but I can't deny the guy really knows what he's doing when it comes to movies. So, you got to forgive.
One of the things revealed, and I can't think of this guy's name either. The recent book that was exposing like the Manson CIA connections, but it was revealed that there was
the CIA book, Operation Chaos.
Yeah, but there was allegedly a pornographic film of Sharon Tate uncovered by the police, given to Polanski, and then who knows what happened after then.
And that's all kind of suspicious because Polanski just happened to not be there that day.
Yeah.
And he didn't look, I don't know, the video that was taken of him right after it didn't really look very like sad or anything. So I don't know what's going on in that thing. Miles Mathis, the researcher, he thinks the whole Sharon Tate thing was faked. That was just a fake out because he got pretty good evidence too. And the whole thing's just so weird. I mean, the whole Laurel Canyon scene is just weird, right? How all the rock stars and actors are all sons and daughters of CIA and Army intelligence. And Jim Morrison's dad was in the Vietnam War. The admiral started the Gulf of Tonkin incident. And he's like, what the hell? He shows up in LA with all those songs were already written. All 5 Doors album songs were already written by the time he arrived in LA. He didn't know anybody in LA, and yet within a year, he's like a rock star. Like,
Yeah, those images are a trip looking at him basically like a year before the Jim Morrison persona. He's like a clean cut, cropped hair, and the whole 9 yards. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't help but think that like the whole 60s and up until now has been one big trauma-based mind control, connecting dots to the OSS, the CIA, and obviously Operation Paperclip. It seems to be one big trauma-based mind control that we've all just had to witness from Vietnam to JFK, the whole thing.
Yeah, the experiments were in the 50s, and then they took it public with the hippies in the 60s. And when they saw how well that worked, then they took it completely over in the 70s. That's when the beginning of the GATE program started in schools, where they took gave kids tests, and they took the highly psychic kids out of the classroom and into special classrooms where the kids today can't even remember what happened to them in those classrooms. So you got to think what we're doing trauma-based mind control on these kids. It turned out to be, you're slightly psychic. So they take you into these classes, do trauma to you, make you forget what happened to you, right? And then it increases your psychic ability. Now they can use you for remote viewing programs and, intelligence work, right? And I think that's actually what's happened here. And I'll go even one step further. What if you were a government agency doing this kind of work, right? And you discovered that 50% of these psychic kids that you were taking out of the classrooms don't like you and don't want to cooperate with you, okay? You've already increased their psychic ability, and now you're realizing 50% of these kids do not want anything to do with us. What are we going to do? We can't let them just go out into society, right? They've got psychic powers. What are we going to do with them? I know what we can do. We'll bomb them with fentanyl. and all sorts of other drugs. I believe that, I know, because I've asked people, homeless people, I've asked a lot of homeless people in their 40s that are addicted to fentanyl if they were involved in the GATE program, and they all, not all, but a lot said they were.
Really?
So I think
Good
that's
grief,
what the homeless problem is. I think it's the discard of the GATE program, the people that they don't want to be a threat to them, but will be if they are completely sober and straight, right? Then they will be a threat to them. And they did these tests, and they know that these people can cause a lot of danger. And they can be very dangerous. So they don't want them to be functional. So
you got to wonder
can
how that connects to the Phoenix program for Vietnam era veterans that, you know,
Phoenix was the
homeless,
beginning
drug
of all
addiction.
this. Yep. That's what they did with the people that survived the Phoenix program. The guys that killed all the people. They put them on drugs. I mean, they all became heroin addicts, and after Vietnam, it's all how they do it. Like Alex Jones calls it the soft kill, right? It's the way you can kill somebody without killing them and making it obvious, right? So I believe that these programs are, so if you comply in the GATE program, right, you're cool with everything and you comply, well, guess what happens to you? Charlie Kirk was in the GATE program. Candace Owens was in the GATE program. Almost everybody that's influential, that's like under 45 years of age, all went through the GATE program. You rise right up the middle of the whole thing. They rise up to the top. That's why it's not a conspiracy, because they were in the GATE program, so they already know what they're supposed to do, right? So that's why it looks like, oh, so they gave all the news commentators the same script and we're all reading the same words, right? No, they all went through the same mind control program. So they already know what they have to do. Then nobody has to tell them. They already know. They've been told back in the GATE program what to do and what to expect and how to act. And so they're all part of it. It's like a hive mind, and it's running everything. It's like the ultimate conspiracy.
I had no idea. I got to say, I had no clue that Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens were in the GATE program. That's insane.
Yeah, they were. And I would bet almost everybody at TPUSA was in the GATE program.
Mm-hmm.
What is the purpose of TPUSA? To mind control.
Exactly.
Right. That's all it was. It's a mind control program. The person that sits on the board of TPUSA wrote the book on mind control with Michael, what's his name? Michael, I forget his name.
It's not Tellinger, is it? I can't recall.
No, not Tellinger. He was the head of Army psychological programs, and also the head of the Temple of Set in San Francisco.
Oh,
Michael
Aquino.
Yeah, Michael Aquino. He wrote the book. The guy that wrote the book with Michael Aquino on psychological warfare sits on the board of TPUSA. Come on.
And I remember seeing when Aquino was like making the talk show circuit, 30 years ago, I remember seeing that and going, this, not that this is an op, but this is normalizing this occult mess, because if the government for sure, and if the military also didn't want this out there, he would never have stepped on Oprah's stage or Donahue or anybody else. That's just rolling it out.
Yeah. And, the fact that he's a Satanist on top of it is really quite curious. What connections does these operations have to Satanism? What's going on there? And then you see that TPUSA has his co-writer on the board, and they're Christians, right? And you're like, what the heck? What's going on here? And so I would even go as far as to say, and I'm not trying to offend anybody here, but I would go to say that almost all of the modern branches of Christianity are MK Ultra programs. Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't. Yep. I think this often, like you mentioned this with a lot of the big names that we see, it's kind of funny because 20, 30 years ago, it was like, oh, it's all, all the big networks are all controlled, Operation Mockingbird and all this and that. And I'm going as far as saying most of the alternative names seem very kept in check too, because I see these random people that I've never heard of in my life, and suddenly they've got a 20 million viewership show, and they're towing the company line and hitting all the talking points. And I'm like, where in the flip did this guy come from? I've never seen this person in my life.
I agree. Like, I've been on this circuit for 35 years now. I know how hard it is to even get somebody to pay attention to you. And then some guy comes along, and in 4 months he's got 20 million views on YouTube, and it's like, wait a minute here, So I think you have to have a background that's viable before you can take anybody seriously anymore. So yeah, but they're definitely in control of the whole thing. I believe the whole flat Earth is a psyop. I pretty much traced it back to its origins, and it's a psyop. And it comes from NASA, by the way. And
not surprised.
Yeah, and so what Terrence McKenna told me in 1994 was something I never forgot. He said, in 30 years, everyone will be in a cult. There'll be hundreds and hundreds of cults. There'll be political cults, sports cults, art cults, rock cults. Everything will be a cult. And I was like, at the time, I was like, what? I don't understand that one. And now I realize, everything is in a cult. And I'm not in a cult, so I feel left out.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like we started with today. I like to come back to stuff that I thought I knew and question it again. And people are just, I'll lose viewers on this one, but I was making fun of the people that had the bandage on the ear for solidarity with Trump when he allegedly got shot at, 7 months ago. I was like, what are you doing? This is hilarious.
It is. It's pathetic. And it looks like the Trump cults might be falling apart here. But yeah. But he let it fall apart. It's his fault.
I mean, not to get too far afield, but I mean, I love that you mentioned that breakdown of Eyes Wide Shut, because I think Stanley Kubrick is one of those people that nothing is wasted in the film and nothing is happenstance, accident, or anything else. I mean, you talked a little bit about that with Eyes Wide Shut, but I mean, that runs through all of his films, that thread. If you look at the signs in Full Metal Jacket, if you look at the obvious MK Ultra connections with the Droogs, and even slipping in all that stuff with that movie too.
Yeah, definitely check out my film of Clockwork Shining. It's all about Stanley and mind control. You'll really like it. I was going to say something. What was it?
Didn't mean to get you sidetracked. So.
Oh no! I'll tell you another thing though about Eyes Wide Shut is in the movie business. You get, if you got a speaking line, you're an actor, you got a speaking line, you have to get paid a certain amount. Okay, there's union, right? But if you're an extra and you don't have time to speak, right? You get paid like $50 a day. I don't know what it is now. This is like back to my Eyes Wide Shut days when I was in the business, right? So extra get $50 a day. Those two guys, they're in the movie, all through the movie, they have no work, no lines. He's giving them extra pay. They're only getting $50 a day. And Kubrick was notoriously cheap, by the way. And furthermore, those two guys don't even have to be in the script, right? There can be no mention of them in the script, right? So he slipped it right past the studios who didn't see it, right?
Brilliant.
It was brilliant because they're not on the payroll. Right? Not really. And there's no lines in the movie. The two guys may not even know what they were doing. Right? So Stanley says, okay, you just stand here at the end of the hallway, right? In this Macy's store. Okay. And okay, just stand there and act, just stand there, just stand there. Okay. Then he has the little girl push towards him. Maybe even Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman don't know what's actually going on in the scene. If you think about it, now everybody, I hope, is going to go look at this and backtrack it, because it's really kind of amazing. You can tell that they're guarding the stairs. They're going up to the top of the house in the mansion. They're letting everybody into the orgy. They're looking at him and opening the door for him and everything. And then they're the ones that are they're following Tom Cruise. They threaten Tom Cruise, and then they give their daughter to these two guys at the end of the movie, because that's the sacrifice. Because if you remember in the orgy, the woman stands up and says, "I will sacrifice myself to save him," right? And so that sacrifice had to be repaid, right, by Tom for violating the rules and going to the orgy. So that's really the subtext of the entire movie. And he somehow slipped it right. They cut a lot of other stuff, believe me. There's about 20 minutes cut out of that movie. But they didn't see that part. Somehow they missed it. And because he did it so subtly. And if you watch the movie now, you'll see how subtle it is. It's like, whoa, right? And the only really thing that you distinguish him is one's tall and thin and one's short and fat. Yeah.
It's so wild, man.
It is.
And he's doing the same thing in The Shining and the same thing in Clockwork Orange. I mean, I'm not sure if I buy this one, but it looks like in Clockwork Orange, they've got adrenochrome on the wall. I can't see the whole word, but it sure looks like it. Looks like
adrenochrome. Drenchrome. It's one of the drugs that they're selling at the milk bar.
Yeah.
And so it's just the very center of the word adrenochrome. It's just the A is gone and the E is gone. So it's Drenchrome. And to know that in 1970, when he made that film, how did he know that? I mean, And that movie, by the way, is chock full of Anthony Burgess, the writer. He was in MI6. He was an intelligence officer. So making drugs that affect you when you're watching movies, just think about it. You're watching a movie about a drug that you take while you're watching movies that mind controls you. And the movie that you're watching is mind controlling you. And because it's making a psychopath into a charming guy. I mean, if you think about Alex, he's a complete psychopath.
Mm-hmm.
You like it. What kind of double black magic trick is that?
And you got to wonder why that was so heavily censored. Well, I mean, you know why now, but I mean, so heavily censored, even when it came out in England, it was like, the
I'll tell you,
non grata films.
But I went to see Clockwork Orange when I was 17 with 3 of my high school buddies. All right. We all went together and we all really liked it. Right. And we talked about it for hours. Over the next 3 months, all 3 of those guys got into criminal trouble. Right? They were just pure guys. They never broke any laws. They didn't cuss. All of a sudden, these guys are like vandalizing places and getting in trouble, beating people up, and I was like, what the heck, right? And I always wondered if there was something in A Clockwork Orange which unleashed this on these guys. Because even I felt it after I saw it. A little bit like I don't know, it's weird. And then Kubrick pulled it from England, where he lived. Okay. Now, I never heard of a film director being able to pull a film from a whole country. I've never heard of that, right? But he did. He pulled it from England and said, we're not going to be able to show this in England. If you want to see this, go to Paris or wherever, right? Or not. Why did he do that? Why did he do that? And furthermore, I'll go one more step, because I was around at the time. Right after Clockwork Orange came out, bands of droogs started appearing in every American city. They looked dressed just like Alex and his droogs. They had canes and they were walking down the street looking for violence. Okay.
That's so wild.
Yeah. So what is in Clockwork Orange? What is it really saying? You know what I mean?
Because I knew that whole motif, like the Clockwork Orange motif, was really big in the mods and the skinheads and the punk scene, but I didn't realize it sort of touched even everyday America, so to speak. That's wild. I didn't know that connection.
Yeah, I wondering if he wasn't doing an experiment for the government in some way. right? Because he did work for the government in 2001. You know, if you look at the credits of 2001, he thanks all the aerospace companies and Air Force intelligence and naval intelligence, and right. So he's already wrapped up in the military industrial complex by the end of 2001. NASA's visiting him in London, and all of that's going on. Arthur C. Clarke was, of course, the driver into this. So what if all of it was some kind of mind control experiment? All of it. All of it, all the films.
I mean, that would play right into the other movie, Full Metal Jacket, where I think he kind of speaks to how much of a mind control element the military became or is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, what is the point of the mind control in Full Metal Jacket? To teach you how to kill. Right? And the irony, of course, is that the guy that gets the most torture, Private Pyle, he shoots the drill instructor at the end of the first scene. So you succeeded. You taught the guy how to kill, and now he just killed you, right? And you know the whole thing is that way. And I can go on forever on all this.
It's so wild, and I can't help but think that the way films are made now, I mean, juxtaposed to then is like night and day. But I think it's also just the deliberate dumbing down of America or the global population, where most people can't even sit through the most mind-numbingly stupid vanilla hour-and-a-half movie. So they don't even have the faculties to sit through 2001 or Clockwork Orange, because they're such dense material that you actually have to sit there and what they say, especially now, you can pause it. You don't have to sit in a cinema. But
hey, I've got it. I've got my attention span has been shortened by, I think, social media and the internet. I mean, you know, I don't sitting down and spending 4 hours reading a book like I used to do all the time. I don't think I can sit 4 hours and read a book anymore. So it's even affecting people like me who, you know, have every defense up against these kinds of things. It's even affecting us. So I can't imagine what a young person's going through right now.
Because my wife and I sat down and watched 2001, I think it was about a month ago. And it, you know, visually, auditory, the whole thing is like such a assault / just glorious picture. But even her and I were sitting there going, good grief, this is a slow burn, you know, for an hour here. We don't know what the heck's going on. But visually, you're so pulled into the movie already.
Yeah, that's what his key was to make things so visually impressive that he could slip by stuff in the background that you wouldn't catch because you're just so overwhelmed by the music and the visuals. So that was kind of his magic trick. The movies I call movies a bastard art because, you know, photography was his own art form, and music was its own art form, and acting was its own art form, and writing was its own art form, and movies kind of took everything and jammed them in together and to a bastard art. But what people don't also include in this bastard art is that movies are also stage magic. And so Kubrick was a master of stage magic. Orson Welles was a stage magician. Billy Wilder was a stage magician. Somebody else. Oh, Steven Spielberg was a stage magician. So what you do is you learn how to do stage magic, and that's how you learn how to trick the audience into believing something that actually didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's wild. I just came to me. I got to ask you this one just because of the randomness of it. But Alfred Hitchcock was definitely heavily, you know, doing propaganda films, doing some of those early like documentaries, quote unquote. I wonder why he wasn't thrown in the mix with a possible candidate, you know, to make some of these films as opposed to.
He was notoriously disagreeable.
Yeah.
And so I think it was one of his movies, they re-edited. Can't remember which one it was, but like the early 40s, they re-edited one of his movies, the studio did. And so after that, he only shot the script. He didn't shoot any extra. He only handed them exactly what they needed. So they couldn't do anything with it, right? And that got him into, the studio hated him for that because they wanted to rearrange stuff around, and he just shot the film, so they couldn't do that. He only gave him exactly what the movie would work. He didn't give him anything extra. So, but he definitely was a propagandist. And you reach that point. I mean, Christopher Nolan reached that point with Oppenheimer. That was he went from filmmaker to propagandist with Oppenheimer. And now with The Odyssey, he's full-blown propagandist. And Quentin Tarantino, same thing. He after Kill Bill, he became a propagandist. Kill Bill is actually his last film. After that, he was assigned those films. The bunch of the guys in the World War II, whatever it's called, and then the Slave movie, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was but what Quentin Tarantino does is they come to him and tell him they want him to make a movie about something, right? Gotcha. He will flip everything around. And one day I'm going to explain all of this, but he will flip everything around very subtly so that the exact opposite message comes through. So in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he said, you know, all these Manson family theories were coming out, right, at the time, right before the movie was made. And I believe that they came in and said, listen, there are a lot of people questioning the Manson family, the Sharon Tate murders and all that. I want you to make a movie about it. Make sure we keep the story going, right? The official story. And Quentin going, oh, man, I don't want to make a movie about this. Do I have to? And Harvey Weinstein, yeah, you got to do it, dude. You know, you want to make a movie, you got to do what I want. And so Quentin goes, all right. So he makes a movie about the family, but he throws it all awry at the end because they get the wrong house. They get Brad Pitt's house instead of Sharon Tate's house, and Brad Pitt sets his dog on him and, you know, stops him. Right? It was a great ending, by the way. Yeah. So that's what. So that's the sad part about Hollywood is the good filmmakers eventually get turned into propagandists. And Steven Spielberg, Days of Disclosure coming out. I'm sure it's propaganda.
Man. Well, Jay, thank you so much for your time. I got on the screen here, JayeWeidner.com. Is that the best place people can go to find everything you?
Yeah, I got a show on YouTube I put out once in a while, Reality Check. And I got a new movie coming out this summer called The Invisible Universe. And check out A Clockwork Shining and JFKX, both on Amazon. I think you can watch them for free now. And and my friend Ryder Lee, I produced it. He had a new film coming out. It should be out next month called Psychic Agent, The Gate Program. All about the GATE program and MK Ultra and remote viewing, and it's a really good film. So that'll be on Amazon too, in probably 2 or 3 weeks.
Oh man, I got to see that. I'd love to talk to you for a minute on that one.
Yeah, I'll have you. I'll get Ryder and me, and we can come on and talk about it.
That'd be great, man. Well, I'll close things up here, but thank you so much again for being on the show. If you'll stick around for about 30 seconds after the credits roll, I'll say goodbye to you at the end.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. All right, folks. If you missed any of that, please check out anomicage.com. You can find this interview, the previous as well. You can pause it. You can rewind. You can take notes, all that good stuff. Go to anomicage.com. You can find all that. As I always say, you can't do everything, but you can do something. Please stick around, and I'll be seeing you sooner than later in the Anomic Age.
Thank you for listening to The Anomic Age, a John Age project. For past shows, further info, and to comment, go to anomicage.com. That's ANOMICAGE.com. Till next time, thank you for listening to The Anomic Age.